Good afternoon and welcome to Real Wealth Network's webinar on Tampa and West Florida. I'm super excited to be presenting this today. We'll get a real estate market update and a property management update, and Tampa's really just been one of the states that is looking like it's going to do pretty well through all this. So we've got David Shaw here with us to tell us what's really going on, boots on the street. So welcome, David.
Hi, Kathy. It's a pleasure to be here as always.
It's fun. It's like we're doing live events, but we're also got kids running around, so it's different.
Not today, Kathy. They've been banished from the home.
Oh, wonderful. They're allowed outside, are they?
They are indeed.
Oh, it's Florida, of course. All right, well, let's go to the next slide. So this disclaimer, we've had, oh my gosh, last month we had more new members than we had in the entire year of 2014. So we're really happy if you're new, if this is your first webinar with us, welcome. Just want to make sure that you read this disclaimer because it's so important that when you buy your first property or any property for that matter, I've missed these steps on my 10th or 20th property or whatever, and I regretted it, so don't do it. Just want to make sure that you understand and go through an investor checklist, which we have on our website, to make sure you don't miss any steps in your due diligence, because it can really come back to bite you. And what that includes is getting a full, not a partial, but a full home inspection from a third-party licensed home inspector, because I'm in California. You're wherever you are, and if you're buying property that you can't see, especially right now, it's harder to go see the property, although I hear airplanes are still flying. Then you definitely want, either way, definitely get this third-party inspection to make sure you're really getting what you think you're getting. And the same with an appraisal, just to have a third party really who understands the market and the rents and so forth, get that appraisal. And then there's so much data online. You'll find lots of webinars on our website to help you really do your due diligence. But city data is just one that you can go in and really zoom in on that neighborhood to understand, especially if you don't live there. So let's go to the next slide. And we're going to talk about, again, Tampa and West Florida. This is a very, very different market than it was 15 years ago, even 10 years ago. There are so many moving parts to the world right now, and one of those moving parts is lots of people moving to Florida. If that was already happening, it's happening even more so. It's cheap, it's beautiful, it's sunny, and there's space, and you could buy a house or live in a house, rent a house that's pretty affordable, but you're still kind of in the middle of paradise, so it works. And a lot of people are realizing that, especially now. So let's take a look. We already saw that, unless you want me to say it again. There we go. All right, so David is, oh man, we just have such a fantastic network of experts, and David is up at the top of that list. He's a full-time investor involved in both U.S. and international real estate. I keep waiting for that international real estate part, David, so when you're ready, we're ready. Since 2004, he's got a career in construction property management before switching to full-time real estate investing and remodeling. So that's awesome and really important for what's coming next, because there's going to be a lot of new construction as to make up for the lack of supply that's out there. That's something that we're going to be doing a lot here at Real Wealth. So just so great to know that David has a background in that. Been working with us for 4 years, has done over 30 million in sales to our Real Wealth members, sold 150 plus properties, and is a husband and father of 2 little ones that he's been able to spend extra special time with over the last couple of months, right, David?
You love saying that. I know you do.
How old are they?
2 and 4, Kathy.
Oh,
so that's yeah.
And they help you with your work, don't they?
Yes, they do. They're here all day, working on the computers and getting things done. I love it.
That's great. All right, wonderful. Let's go. Yeah, and then the broker, and I want to explain that because again, we have so many new members. I really want to explain how all this works. My husband, Rich, is a licensed real estate broker in California. I am a licensed real estate agent, but only in California. So the way that the laws work is we have to, if we ever, we don't want to do business in California right now. There's just the tides are against landlords. Let's just put it that way. So we've always been looking for areas that are growing, that are affordable, where the landlord laws are in the landlord's favor. Oh my goodness, I need more coffee. So in order to be able to, provide properties to our California members and members from all over the world, we have relationships with other brokers, and that is allowed, where we can do a broker to broker relationship. So that is how we do our business. There's no mystery around it. Broker to broker relationship. And this is our broker, Mike Bundy. He's been working, and he's also the property manager, and he's not here right now, but you'll see lots of webinars with him if you go on to the Tampa page on our website. He's been working in property management for 15 years. David, you've worked with this company?
I've worked with Mike since he really started to grow. We kind of pretty much grew him up to that kind of 315 single family rentals that he has right now, Kathy. And he does a bunch of multifamily and condo stuff as well. That's not part of my world. But yeah, he does most of his work is in the single family stuff, and he is indeed. I'm also licensed, Kathy, and I hang my license with his brokerage as well, which actually allows us to fluidly all work with each other legally.
Wonderful. All right, so now this map is growing, and that's what's so exciting. And David, I've been wanting this for a long time, so it's been an interesting couple of months, but what always happens when people have to stop for a minute and reset is something great comes of it. And so let's talk about that. What's the new green circle there, and what are the red ones?
Kathy, it's very much my pleasure. I've been working on this for about 2 years. In the last 2 years, we have seen basically the price of renovated homes has been creeping up. Now, the original market for renovated homes over new build was that there was just such a colossal gap in price between what we could buy and renovate a home for versus what a builder could buy a lot for and build a home on it. And that gap was always a big reason for buying the renovated rentals. But in the last 2 or 3 years, as more and more people have come into the market, that gap has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller between what I can buy a rehab for and fix it up and sell it to an investor versus what a builder can deliver a new build home. And as that gap has narrowed further and further, it's become abundantly clear that new build now is very much in the financial running. And in terms of why now, COVID-19 had a big part to play in it. They shut the foreclosure markets down about 6-7 weeks ago. And so, there were no foreclosures going through the judicial system. And that gave me that, like you say, that gave us that breathing space to say, okay, maybe this is the time that we actually do take the time to pivot and start working with the new build product that we've been thinking about doing for years anyhow.
Great. Well, and that we've been wanting, and especially in this area. I'm so thrilled. So let's go to the next slide to talk about that. This slide is mainly for the Tampa area, the red circles, right?
This is right. Yeah, we're going to have a distinction in this webinar today about what the status of the existing rental pool is like, which is mostly what we've done for the last number of years. We have worked primarily in the rehabs in the Tampa Bay area and the Tampa Bay suburbs, and we'll move on to what the future holds in terms of new build later on in the webinar. So these are statistics and facts that we've looked at very carefully over the last number of weeks last number of months since COVID-19 came in. And what we're seeing, and this is according to Mike Bundy, my broker and property manager, what we're seeing, we don't work in a tourism industry area. We don't work where the beaches are. We don't work where the theme parks are. The suburbs of Northwest Tampa Bay area are largely government workers, owners of small businesses in terms of landscapers, plumbers, tradesmen, that kind of thing. And most of our houses are also rented to 2-income families. So in spite of the initial dire projections as to what might happen in April and indeed in May, we're not seeing a great deal of job losses in our tenants in this environment and in this market. And most work for, as I say, governments and businesses that weren't shut down. We had a very, very minimal shutdown here in the state of Florida. You can look at it whichever way you choose, but the shutdown was never a blanket shutdown and across the board. Essential services were always in the construction field and the home care field. And so we haven't seen very many job losses in our tenant pool at all. Yeah, hospitality took a big hit, but Northwest Tampa Bay is just not a hospitality-driven business or area, and local companies are still hiring in this market. The COVID-19 thing seems to have largely come and gone, and I'm not saying that the medical effects aren't there, and I'm not saying that the human suffering effects are not there, but the economic effects are largely minimal. And it's very strange for me to say that, but that's what we're seeing on the ground.
It's amazing. I mean, obviously there are people affected, and I hope that they're able to get through this with the government stimulus checks, which is what we're seeing. Those who were affected are getting help, and that's pretty awesome, right? You know, they're. I mean, hopefully, I've heard some stories where not everybody got their checks yet, but they are going out, and then there's the unemployment. So those who are affected are getting some kind of life support during this time, while hopefully they'll get rehired again soon.
We're just not seeing a great deal of forbearance. We're not seeing a great deal of requests for payment schemes or plans. So anyhow, we should move on. The market going forward for right now. I think you did a webinar in this last week, Kathy. John Burns.
John Burns Real Estate Consulting. I have great respect for this company. They do a tremendous amount of research and data for home builders. So we've worked with them. I have him on. I've been following him for a long time. And they came out with this report that I was so happy to see: the geographic opportunities, the market recovery, and the boom markets. And basically the green are the markets that are expected to recover the fastest and be the least affected by any of it. Then you've got the kind of baby blue that is the next boom town, might take a little bit longer. But then of course the ones that maybe will take even longer. So they're all good markets over the long term. They're just going to recover in different timelines.
That's true. It's look, the trend is clear. People are moving to the southeast. They're moving to Texas. They're moving to Florida. That's where people are moving in the last 10 years, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. With the advent of technology, the advent from working from home, which is only going to increase, people want to live in nice climates where it's affordable, quite frankly. And that's what's driving a lot of this. And John Burns is a respected name in this business. So I was delighted to see that John Burns put my city as one of the leading performers in the future field. So I'm delighted with that.
He's your new best friend. Okay.
I respect John Burns. Yeah. Okay, so we'll move on to the next. Okay. All right. So what's the short-term outlook for your tenants and employers? Okay, as mentioned earlier on, we're seeing minimal job losses among our tenants. We've just gone back there. I think this.
Yeah, just seems to. There we go.
Okay, so we just had to take care of a little bit of housekeeping here today, which is how were the statistics for May rent. A lot of people were very nervous about the April rent, but how did May's rent collection go? Well, speaking with Mike, our property manager, we collected 95% of rent for the month of May, which concurs with a normal rent month so far. A lot of our tenants are on fixed income. They're Social Security payers, so they often pay in the 10th and 11th and 12th of the month anyhow. So we've already collected, Mike has already collected 95% of rent for the property management. We only have 4 properties that reached out since April asking for a payment arrangement, and we have 3 properties currently in eviction, and none of them have anything to do with COVID-19, and they were already not performing beforehand. So that is what we are seeing, and so we're delighted to report, in spite of what we all feared, that these numbers are actually what's panning out. And I think increasingly what's happening, Kathy, it's become very clear that people are very much prioritizing their home right now. It's where people live, it's where they're sheltering, and at no point does anybody want to lose or even jeopardize that. So, well done to the market. I'm very happy to see this. Kathy, we're having a little bit of weirdness with this.
Yeah, it keeps going backwards.
Okay. Well, I'm pressing the forward button. Let me try, and we'll. Okay, how's it?
There we go.
Okay, I apologize for that. Okay,
that's okay. You're a boomer.
I am, right? So what's the rental market look like, and what are we seeing in the real world? So we delivered somewhere around 15 homes to the rental market since April 1st. And we did a review 2 days ago, and of those 15, 2 remain. And they're the ones that we just kind of put out there about a week ago. We're seeing an enormous demand in rental for rentals, and we're seeing an equally enormous demand for resales on the MLS. There's not a great deal of inventory out there right now, but sales are, renting is just as strong as it ever was. Sales, the actual volume of sales is down a little bit, but the properties that are out there that are vacant and available on the MLS are receiving multiple offers on day 1, day 2, day 3. I put a home out on the MLS last Friday, and I received 2 offers by Sunday evening, and on Monday morning I received 2 further. So we haven't seen sales and rental volume like this in the last year. So if anything, our market is showing increased activity and increased strength.
We're seeing it across the board, actually. It's amazing, and it could have to do with the very low interest rates, but also, like you said, people are really prioritizing housing and maybe needing an extra room for their office or for the kids, or yeah.
That's right. I think a lot of people are moving out of apartments. A lot of people are moving out of cities, or out of the densely populated areas. So yeah, and I think an awful lot of people are moving also towards affordability. Anybody who's been in a $2,800 a month rental is like, you know what, maybe this is the time to be in a $1,400 a month rental. So I think there's definitely a lot of credit to be applied to the product. I think that we've always worked in. We've always stayed in that affordable lane. We were never chasing the upper end dollar, and we always thought that was a volatile area to be in. So
I want to explain affordable too, because people think we're talking about government, housing or something. When we say affordable, we're talking about the housing that the average person in the area can afford. And when you take that average person, the average income, well, that's the most people, right? That's tends to be why it's the average. And that means, if there's people who've been paying more, well, they can, afford the less. And so anyway, that's the area we've stayed in the different markets, and it's playing out really well right now.
Yes, it is. Kathy, all of that being said, and that rental housekeeping out of the way, we started off this webinar discussing new build opportunities. And as mentioned earlier on, the gap in prices between existing rehabbed homes and new build continues to tighten. Now, this is opening up all sorts of new opportunities for investors across the board, and that's in lots of markets, not just mine. Builders are now seeing the same opportunity. Builders in 2010, 11, 12, 13, and 14 were largely building luxury homes because they're the people who could afford mortgages at that time. But builders have started to serve that entry-level market, and that's another reason why new builds are becoming more and more attractive at the moment. It's a serious opportunity now for investors because, as I say, for an extra $20,000, maybe $30,000 of mortgageable mortgage payments, we can get a new build home. And there is advantages to a new build home. Tenants love them. Tenants tend to stay in them for a greater length of time. And if you buy a new build home, they tend to be not in the densely urban places. They tend to be out in the suburbs. And guess what? Schools are better in the suburbs by and large. Infrastructure tends to be quite accessible in the suburbs. So let's go to the actual suburb that I've been looking at for a number of years now. I live in downtown St. Petersburg. So I've been, working in the whole Tampa Bay area for basically 10 years, 11 years, I should say. But each time I drive down the I-75 corridor. Now, what that means, the I-75 corridor is basically a collection of cities on the west coast, the southwest coast of Florida. That's basically Tampa, St. Pete, Bradenton, Venice, Sarasota, Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda, Fort Myers, Cape Coral, and down to Naples. That corridor is a fantastic opportunity for anybody who's looking at the new build space. Schools are great, jobs are booming, people are moving there from all over the world, not just the United States. People are moving there from all over the world, and if you're in the middle of this corridor, you can basically commute 30 minutes one way. You're up in Sarasota, 30 minutes the other way. You're in Fort Myers. Fantastic opportunity right now. So the I-4 corridor is where we're operating, and basically the price point, $175,000 to $240,000 for a new build home that delivers 7% cash on cash. To us and in our world, that's an opportunity worth manipulating.
Absolutely.
So where are these? Where specifically are we on the I-4 corridor? As mentioned, there's about 7 or 8, actually there's 9 cities on the I-4 corridor. In the area where we're deciding to operate in the beginning of all of this is basically Lee County and Charlotte County. And in those counties, we have Northport, Punta Gorda, Cape Coral, Fort Myers, and we're going to be launching properties to the database basically today and onwards from here in some deed restricted subdivisions called Deep Creek and in and around the Northport and South Sarasota areas. The average sales price in these neighborhoods is $278,000. The median monthly rent is $1,700 for these areas in our analysis. There's about 1 million people living in just in the catchment area. I'm not talking about the entire I-75 corridor. We're just in the catchment area that we are focusing in on. So the Northport, Sarasota, Bradenton area, the Punta Gorda area, and the Arcadia statistical area. So right now, this is where we're seeing retirees moving from the Southeast. We're seeing people moving from California, and we're seeing people moving over from my home country, Ireland, England, all over Europe. People buy homes in this area for vacation purposes. So it's a strong market, and it's the reason why we're there. But why else are we moving to the West Florida market? The bottom line is that right now we have about somewhere around 21.5 million people live in Florida. There's predictions of 26 million by 2030. There's predictions of 24.5 million by 2030. But the bottom line is that in the next 10 years, basically the next 9 years, by and large, Florida is depending on who you're listening to, Florida is looking to add about another 3 to 4 million people. And that blows my mind. 3 to 4 million in the next 9 years. That's a huge number, Kathy. And that's why anybody who is investing in any market, anywhere, look to population growth. A lot of other things, are matter. Are you getting a corner lot? Has it got good feng shui? Is it a south-facing lot? But population growth is the one driver you should be looking for when you're looking to invest. Number 2, the big player in this equation right now is West Florida. New build in general in West Florida is incredibly affordable. Look at this. Look at the affordability scale here right in front of us. Look where Tampa is circled there. Yeah, so if you're living in Los Angeles right now, and I'm not comparing West Florida to Los Angeles, there's a reason why LA is what it is, and there's a reason San Francisco is what it is. But you look at the affordability there. There's a huge amount of people, and even more so after COVID-19, that will want an affordable, suburban, new home with easy access to shops, beaches, cities, jobs, infrastructure, airports. And we have the nicest beaches. We have the nicest beaches, some of them in the world, right in this market. So yeah, affordability and population growth is why we think that there's an active opportunity right now for anybody who's prepared to seriously consider it and do their homework and due diligence. Okay, now the I-75 corridor. Obviously, there are 2 major corridors in the state of Florida. that are worth considering. There's the I-95 corridor that runs up the east coast from Miami, Fort Lauderdale, up through Jacksonville and into New York and into those big metropolitan areas. The I-75 corridor captures the Chicagoland, Detroit, and basically a lot of the Midwest, which is why we have a lot more Midwesterners move to the I-75 side of the state than we have New Yorkers per se. So I-75 corridor is an important piece of infrastructure, and particularly as it goes south of the Tampa Bay area. You see there on the right-hand picture. As it approaches south of Tampa, it's capturing between Tampa and Naples there, it's capturing somewhere in the region of 8 million people in total. So it's very important corridor that needs to be considered. Okay, so what's happening on this? I-75 corridor, big population growth, big economic story, and an investment success story. It's a 2-hour drive basically from my house to Naples. And in that 2-hour drive, I drive through 8 MSAs. Tampa, St. Pete, obviously I'm leaving there, Bradenton, Sarasota, Venice, Northport, Port Charlotte, Fort Myers, Cape Coral, and Naples. And many of our listeners will know a good chunk of those cities. They're all, within 30 miles of each other. So if you live basically anywhere on this I-75 corridor, you're within shooting distance of a great deal of opportunity, a great deal of airports, infrastructure, leisure activities, and more importantly, economic opportunities. So people are relocating here as well for vacation reasons, and they're genuinely coming from all over the world. So it's not just the local, economic migrant that's driving all of this. This is a super high quality of life. If you're looking to this I-75 corridor has basically better schools. If you move out to the suburbs, or if you live in the city in the Tampa Bay area, unless you live in a multi-million-dollar area, our school system is not very good. If you have a young family and you want to have access to really, really highly regarded elementary and middle and high schools, this is a no-brainer equation for you. So there's a super high quality of life. As I mentioned, we got, we have great schools, big cities, great infrastructure, and 4 airports within easy reach. And the reason why an awful lot of people actually move here, and I don't often say it as a big sale point, but we genuinely have the best beaches in the world. If you spend an evening sitting on Siesta Key Beach or any of the major beaches that we have down there, it's just absolutely beautiful. So it's just a really, really great quality of life. So we have a lot of major employers in the area. There's a great deal of government and healthcare. Public supermarkets. They basically are the major supermarket in the state of Florida. And they're a big, and I'm not talking about just the people who work in the stores, but they're a fairly major organization. So medical, financial services, we have quite a lot of governmental activity. So these are some of the major employers in the area, but this is just to name a few. A huge amount of people also just work remotely. I would say, Kathy, most of the people I know in some way, shape, or form work for companies out in California. They work for companies in New York. They work for companies in Minnesota. And so a great deal of the people I know, they work for other companies that just happen to live here. So that's just, it's hard to quantify what that number is, but I see it all the time. These are some of the colleges and universities just on the I-75 corridor. So within an hour, you have all of these higher educational opportunities on your doorstep. So we can, if you're thinking about, university, or you're thinking about college, West Florida is a really nice place to live.
Are they opening them back up? Do you know?
At the moment,
California, our fall semester got canceled.
At the moment, everything is scheduled to open up in August and September, but as yet, I've heard nothing of a further delay.
Something tells me yours will be open.
Something tells me our leaders will choose the open route. It's amazing to me, Kathy, just on that note, it's amazing to me just how little in reality things slow down here. Bars and restaurants did for sure. And I took a run the other night, and I live beside literally 100 bars and restaurants near my house. And, you know, everybody seems to be practicing the social distancing guidelines, some better than others, some establishments better than others. But it was amazing to me how quickly, you know, just shortly after reopening, which was last Friday, how quickly many of them were busy again. Will we live to rue that story? I'm not sure, but we will wait and see what happens. So, but let's start looking at let's drill down into the actual product type. So I've reached out to a number of builders, and specifically builders who operate in very specific geographical locations that I like the look of. But more importantly, that builders that were supplying product that matched my current standards. I will only buy homes that are built in concrete in the state of Florida. It's what I go to. It's what I like. It's what I personally own. And so that was kind of my criteria number one. Concrete block home, built in 2020s, to the very, very latest standards. So let's look at some of the numbers for some of the homes that we can offer our buyers right away. We can deliver a 3-bed, 2-bath. This is the photograph on your left-hand side, about 1,400 square feet for $194,000. New delivered. Yeah, and you look at the kind of down payment on something like that would be about $38,000, $39,000. You're going to have some closing costs, which is normal in a finance transaction, and you're going to have no rehab costs. So you're going to have about $42,000 of your own money that you're going to put down to invest in a home like this. We could go through property management is 8%. Principal and interest is going to be about $743. Insurance on new build is deep. I own new build, and my wife takes care of a lot of this, but of the insurance issues. But so when I started to really dig into what this as a product would look like, I was shocked. Insurance is at 20%. It's a fraction of the cost of an existing home, and it's just because it's new and it's built to the new standards. It's got all of the hurricane standards. It literally, it's an existing home is 80% more to insure. So the insurance costs are negligible, really negligible. We can offer a property management solution for 8%. So your total running costs on a home like this are $1,167 in a financed environment, and about $424 in a cash environment, which gives us a monthly cash flow after expenses, principal and interest of $433. That's a annual cash flow of about $5,000. That's a fine return on a $40,000, and that's not to. I'm not a tax advisor, but that's not to include the tax advantages and the many, many other advantages of owning real estate. In an all cash. Want to
jump in and say these are estimated. Not everyone's going to get a 4% rate. Some might get a better rate. Some might not. It depends on your lender. It depends on your, a lot of things, how much you put down and what your credit is. So we're just kind of doing averages here. Your insurance is going to be different for your property. So just know this is estimated. And also, if you read over on the left, it's kind of light to see, but it says it's the responsibility of the buyer to confirm the accuracy of any pro forma, including rent ranges. You can go to rent, so many sites to verify these rents and so forth. Third-party inspectors, of course, appraisers before purchasing. And also, it's recommended, we don't have vacancy reserves on here or reserves for repairs. So add that on. We took it off because people were confused. We have so many new investors, they thought that was a cost. But basically you want to set aside reserves for future issues. You could have you could have vacancies, you could have repairs that are needed. These are new homes, so there's a warranty on them, and but there still could be repairs in 2 or 3 or 4 years. So you want to set aside a portion of this income to prepare for that. And people have different numbers for that. Some people will do 3% of the rents, 4%, 5%, 8% if you want to be conservative. Usually what I do is just say, I'm going to take 6 months rent and stick it in a bank account somewhere as savings. If you want to be really conservative, do 12 months. That way, just like any business, there's a lot of businesses that learned over the last 2 months that you need to have reserves. A lot of families learned, wow, maybe I should have saved money instead of spent it all. And, because those rainy days happen, those little surprises happen. So that's what you definitely want to do, set aside money for potential vacancies and repairs, but this is the pro forma based on what we can predict for income expenses.
Very good, and that is very useful information, Kathy. And to exactly that point, whenever I buy a home for my own rental portfolio, I put 6 months of reserves into an account on that home. But what I also do is I have a real estate bank account, and all of my income, and I mean all of my income, goes into that account, and I don't touch it ever. It just builds up, and if I get a real estate expense, like an air conditioner goes out, or a roof needs to be replaced or whatever, it does not emotionally hurt me, because all of my real estate income goes into a real estate account. So, and in 20 years, I'll enjoy the benefits of that, but I am not investing in real estate right now to enjoy $400 a month from each home. I'm investing in real estate right now so that I'll have an emotionally free momentum going forward. If you're not prepared, Kathy is 100% right. If you're not prepared for the little hiccups along the way, real estate will not be a pleasurable experience. But if you have reserved account, your 6 months of reserves, and you've reserved all of your income, when things go wrong, you won't really care. It's how to grow big in real estate. So absolutely 100% agree with your point there, Kathy. Okay, so what does this floor plan look like? We got 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. All of our homes are going to have a nice big 2-car garage, which I don't have in my own home. I obviously touring these homes last week, I was extremely jealous of the garage size. But these are they're open plan, they're free flowing. And this is a 1,400 square foot option. So this is basically the entry level option. It's extreme. I spoke to our builder, and this is among our builders' most in demand rental option that's there. So I want to be very, very clear on that. Now, the 1,300 square feet the 1,400 square feet is just the air conditioned space. This does not include the 2-car garage, does not include the lanai and the entryway. So there's a great deal of other floor square footage in the home, which amounts to about 2,000 square feet. So let's move on to a different house type, and we can look at, here we have a 4-2. It's at 1,810 square feet. Again, it's new. This is a $239,000 home. So it's a good deal. It's a good deal bigger. But again, it washes its face primarily in the same way in our estimation. We have, again, a down payment that's $47,000, so it's a little bit more than the 3.2. We have our closing costs of $474. Again, they're a lot cheaper. All of this is much cheaper if you're in terms of closing costs, if you're doing an all cash transaction. Again, we have taxes, we have no HOA, we have no CDDs, very minimal insurance, property management at 8%. So our total monthly costs here are $1,400, but with a monthly rental estimate of $1,850, we should have cash flow on this home at about $435 per month, and that gives us an annual of $5,220. Again, in my world, that goes into my reserve account, doesn't go into my pocket. So this is a fantastic option. The 4-bed option is a very, very popular with resales, very popular with the residential market, very popular with snowbirds, very popular with retirees. 4-bed option is if they brought a home like this to actual completion and put it on the MLS, which they did last weekend, they had a bidding war on this exact home.
Amazing.
Yeah, again, this is an open plan, floor plan with a large screened-in porch with a concrete deck. We have air conditioned 1,810 square feet. But again, if we include the lanai, the entryway, the garage, we have 2,381 square feet under truss. That's under roof. Let's try another one. We have a 3.2. It's slightly bigger 3.2. It's a 1,550 square feet, 3.2 square feet under air. Again, here we have a slightly lower price point at $203,000. Again, our down payment in this scenario is just a fraction over $40,000, $40,766. We have closing costs on this one about $4,077. Again, we have the same principal and interest, taxes, insurance, property management. So our total monthly cost on a home like this is $1,233. And think about that from a real world, Kathy. $1,200. Look at the rent and look at the cost. Like you ask yourself, why doesn't everybody just buy a home?
Right.
Why don't they just buy it? They can buy this and own it for $1,250.
Would you like me to answer that?
Yes, please answer that.
They could be just coming for a short period of time for a temporary job. They maybe have bad credit. They might have too much debt. They don't want home ownership. They're just testing out the area. There's a million reasons. But
Yeah.
I think the biggest reason is that most people are over leveraged and they don't meet the debt to income requirements. That's just kind of what we've seen. But we're happy to offer them housing.
It's an incredible price point to think that you can own a home. And I was in these homes last week, and I live in a 100-year-old home in downtown St. Pete, and I was very, very jealous. I would move into one of these homes in a New York minute, given the opportunity.
Oh man, I love St. Petersburg though.
Yeah.
But it's not as much fun when all the restaurants are closed. No.
not so much fun when the restaurants are closed and when you have to pay for private school for your children.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yep.
So there's a very, very strong argument as to why people make these decisions.
Yes.
Again, there's the floor plan of this home. I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide. It's a 3.2. All of our homes are going to have a 2-car garage. Again, it's a 1,500 square feet under air. This is going to be a little bit more expensive for the buyer. It's going to be a little bit more expensive for the tenant, but it's going to be a little bit more spacious. So there's certainly tenants who are going to make this kind of hybrid in between the big unit and the small one. They're going to make the call on this one. So I was inside that one, and that was a really, really beautiful home. And here's our tiniest, our smallest offering at all. This is a 1,275 square foot home. It's
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
we
and
were paying these kind of prices in Dallas in 2006.
You know what, and you bring up a very good point, and I want to disclaimer this by saying I haven't actually done it, but the builders that we are teaming up with have indicated to us that they want to stay competitive in the market, and they want to keep their prices below everybody else in this space. So we feel that this is a very, very much a value play, and if other builders were delivering a product like this, it would not be at this price point. So $175,000 for a new home. It blew my mind when we started. And I walked this home, it just does not feel cramped. It feels it's a nice open plan home. The down payment on a home like this is $35,000. Again, we're going to have closing costs, and closing costs are obviously made up of not just costs. A lot of them are prepays on taxes and various other things on prepays. So then you got your principal and interest, taxes. We don't have a HOA, we don't have CDDs, very minimal insurance. Property management at 8%. So our total cost on this is $1,062. Again, why would somebody considering renting, other than your answer previously? This is $1,050, $1,062 a month to run a home like this. Incredible value, and this is why people are moving to this area. Now, our monthly cash flow on this is going to be $388, or about $4,656 a year. We expect to see lower. We expect to see lower maintenance costs on a brand new build home. The builders will warranty almost everything in the home for a year. So we don't expect to see a great deal of maintenance certainly in year one. I can't speak to anything beyond that. And of course, I disclaimer that comment with, we have tenants. Tenants are moving parts, tenants have dogs, tenants have children, tenants have things that we cannot control. But yeah, that is our entry level option, and I think for $35,000 down, that's a serious option for anybody who's looking buy a new build home. Okay, this is again, it's open plan living, dining, 3 nice sized bedrooms, walk-in closets, and master bathrooms, and 2-car garage. Again, I love this home. Let's move on to what these interiors look like. We are building a product for the rental market. We are providing rolled vinyl in all of the open spaces. The builder currently provides carpet with an upgrade to tile should you want it. We spoke with the builder at length, and we're going to use a product that we currently use in our existing rehabs. It's a rolled vinyl. We love it. It looks exactly like hardwood, and it lasts forever. And it works really, really well on a clean concrete pad. Outside of that, we are using stainless steel appliances, and we can upgrade to granite countertops should we choose, but we really don't have to. These are all open plan homes, will it and I, and everything else is new in the home. So I think you'd agree that that's a fine looking house right there, Kathy.
Beautiful.
Okay, let's talk about property management. What's it normally? So property management, it looks like, I don't want to say this unequivocally because our first homes will be delivered in about 3 months, but it looks like we are going to deliver property management in-house on this new build product. I do have 2 other property management options that I'm currently considering that I personally use myself. I own homes in this area, I own homes in this location, but equally I have recently hired a new project manager, and that project manager used to run an enormous property management business. So he currently wants to take on this new build property management in-house. If we do, or if we supply a third-party property manager, we'll figure that out as we get closer to that time. We are all of us will agree that it'll be the tenant leasing fee will be 75% of the first month's rent. The tenant release fee is meeting the tenant, inspecting the home, getting the tenant to rechecking all of the tenant's credit and all the tenant's criteria. So there's quite a bit of work to a release. People think it's just a piece of paperwork. It's actually not. There's quite a bit of due diligence involved in it. That's a $250 flat fee. It's 8% of the monthly gross rent is the management fee. The average tenant stay in our product, and we expect in a new build product, is about 2 to 3 years. If you give a tenant a fine product, something that is not comparable on the market, something that they're not going to find something cheaper for, or they're not going to find something better for, they tend only to move unless their circumstances change. They get a new job, they want to move home, they want to move back to wherever it is they came from, whatever it might be. But we have an average of about 2 to 3 years of tenancy. That's not to say that your tenant won't move out year 1 or month 3, but on average, and that's real estate always works in averages rather than one particular piece of data. If you own 50 homes here, you will find on average your tenants will stay for 2 to 3 years. We have a vacancy rate of 3%, 4%, and I actually don't believe that that's a vacancy rate. That's just more the time it takes to turn over a home. It usually takes about 1 to 2 weeks, 3 weeks maybe to find your qualified buyer that you're going to and do their homework and do their due diligence and give the tenant time to move in. So you put it out, takes a week or 2 to identify your tenant. It takes about a week to get them pre-qualified, get them in, get a lease signed, walk them through the lease, their obligations in a lease, and obviously then your tenant is going to have to notice where they are and move in. So we say the vacancy rate is 3 to 4%, but that's largely just the semantics of placing a tenant. And our average monthly rent collection, and we're going to give it not last month or 2 months ago, we're going to give it from this month. This month was 95%. Okay. So questions, comments, other than how long it took me to say all that. I'll take that criticism on board myself.
Oh, excuse me. Just bought our first in Holiday.
Okay, very good. Yep, that's one of our rehab locations.
Awesome. Loving this. Thank you. Oh, thank you. I'm glad to see Tampa, Orlando, and Jacksonville on that chart. I'm in Orlando, and we're seeing a lot of folks from New York and New Jersey coming to Florida. Yeah. Lucky you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
David, do you have a preferred non-conventional lender for investors who use a trust and LLC?
Do we have a preferred non-conventional lender? Does that mean
It's pretty
is that FHA?
impossible.
Yeah, I'm kind of a little bit miffed. Is that FHA that we're talking about? Do we have an FHA
No,
lender?
no, it's non-conventional. All of that non-QM, non-conventional stuff is not there.
So we're
It
talking
could
about the likes
come
of
back.
Lima One Capital, Genesis, those people. Is that the question?
Yeah. Do
What's
you
your
know?
what's your take on that right now?
Right now, we don't know too many, but we will look and see if there's anybody. It was already pretty hard to find a lender who would lend to your LLC before this. Then a lot of those non-conventional lenders just sort of stopped for a little while, and
Yeah.
their funding dried up. But I think it'll come back. Just I would just wait and see. I know Ben has been talking to some different lenders who say they still have money. So I think it was just a temporary pause while everybody was freaking out. And now
Okay.
that this thing is getting a little bit more figured out, I do believe the money will come back, especially given how much is flowing into the market. So,
Yeah.
but for now, yeah.
With the flux in the mortgage market, I wouldn't jump at answering that question other than I think we're very clear on if you've got a good credit score and you're working with a conventional lender, you're not going to have any difficulty whatsoever in the current market. Rates are extremely low and you're going to have a great time. In the non-conventional spaces, in these third-party or hard money lenders, I'll always there's plenty of hard money lenders who will always fund your product for a price. But right now, the bigger guys in the kind of non-conventional space, Lima One and Genesis Capital, I can't say what they're currently doing. I haven't looked into it in about 2 or 3 weeks.
I got to tell you though, with the way the markets are and the way the negative interest rates are going and the bond market and so forth, if you know people who have a self-directed IRA or are invested in the market and scared, these would be the people to talk to and say, hey, how would you like to make 4% or 5%, and secured to real estate? It's a good time to start talking to people because not only can you help them make more money than they might be making elsewhere, but they would have it secured to an asset that's under market value and in a market that's growing. So there are ways to get your access to money.
Yeah, I'm certainly seeing that.
Yeah. Does the seller pay their own closing costs?
Seller pay partially their own closing costs. Obviously, title insurance is paid by the seller. But in terms of so you're saying I pay all my closing costs and the buyer pays all of their closing costs. I pay for title insurance and I pay all of my own closing costs. I don't require the buyers to pay my closing costs.
Okay. Is Sinista managing? Who's the manager?
The new build property is on the I-75 corridor. Sonesta are very good locally at what they do in the Port Richey, Newport Richey, and Holiday areas. And I'd like to keep them exactly there, and I don't want to take their eye off the prize. So they will continue to manage our existing rentals. And I have a new entity called West Florida Invest that's specifically designed to find, market, and develop the new build opportunity on the I-75 corridor. So West Florida Invest is my new entity, and we, at this point in time, will be supplying the property management when the first of our sales start to come through. We will have a property management solution for them in-house.
Okay. Are these homes on city water or sewer, or are they well and septic?
That's a fantastic question. That's a really good question because the answer is it's 50-50. And some of the infill lots, so very quickly, let me talk about the actual product. So some of our homes are located in existing subdivisions. So they're infill lots within deed restricted subdivisions. So you'll drive in and the manicured lawns and largely built out already, and you'll see a couple of vacant lots here and there. And they do have a very, very small, and when I say very small, about $250 a year HOA fee. But in return, you get good standards, you get good quality. So some of our homes in the existing subdivisions are on city sewer and water. a lot of our homes, and I own, homes of this nature myself, are in infill lots. A lot of the area in Cape Coral, Fort Myers, Northport, the county came in years ago and put infrastructure into these neighborhoods. They put in roads, they put in streetlights, they put in sewers, they put in water. So about 75% of our homes are on city, sewer, and water, and about 25% of our homes are on septic and well. And there's not a great deal of advantage or disadvantage to either if it's new.
Okay. Someone said kind of low cash flow. I kind of think for a new home, it's pretty high cash flow. That's just my opinion. But if you can find us new homes that cash flow better, give me a call. Okay.
Yeah, and can I add in there just very quickly, Kathy, as well, is that cash flow on a pro forma, in my experience, and I get, I'm in this business, I get stuff in from wholesalers all day long. Cash flow is what you actually realize at the end of the day, not what's written on a piece of paper. And in my experience, and I own new build from some of your suppliers, I have found that to be very stable and very accurate. And I own homes that, in my own portfolio, and I own homes from older homes. Cash flows, it is, you can plan for everything, but there's always going to be a maintenance requirement, and particularly the further down the food chain you go. If you go into C and D type properties, I've seen cash flow on paper at 9 or 10 or 11%, and then I realized minus cash flow. So cash flow is all about what's realized. I'm not sure if I totally agree that this is low cash flow. I think these are about 7% cash on cash cap rates, and they are closer to 17% on the equity that you put into the home, your down payment, versus what your cash flow is, about 17%. So, if you can get 17% on your money, I wouldn't consider that to be I wouldn't consider that to be a problem.
Well, one thing you said that I thought was really funny, and we've been seeing this, and we've been bringing all these teams from different cities together. We find great people like you in different areas, and we do masterminds. We obviously not bringing you all together in person, except we did in February, right before all this happened. And you've all become friends, and you're helping each other, and you're helping improve, and giving each other ideas on how to do property management and get through this crisis. But the funniest thing I've noticed lately is you guys have been buying property from each other, which says a lot, because you're all experts in finding deals and renovating, and you're buying from each other. So that's awesome.
Yeah, if you buy, it's because we're known quantities. We know each other. We can rely on each other, and we can also rely on each other's facts and data. So yeah, I feel very comfortable. I'm very comfortable with all of the various other markets that you guys operate in.
That's really cool. Okay, are these lots you're building, are they in flood zones?
Let me clarify this first before we start. That I'm building. I am not building these. I am working, and I've spent a lot of time nurturing very, very close relationships with builders who are experts in these areas. So I'm not building these. I am bringing these to my buyers. Will I be building them in the future? Very, very likely. But currently, I am working with one trusted builder that I've in depth done my analysis on, in depth done due diligence on, and spent a lot of time talking with and meeting with and seeing their product and very carefully examining what it is that they do. Now, what was your original question again? I've lost my own train of thought.
Are they in flood zones?
No, we don't do anything in flood zones.
No way. No way, man.
No way, Jose.
Still, with that said, when you're not in a flood zone, you might want to just look into flood insurance, because if you're not in a flood zone, it can be pretty cheap, and so why not have it? But right?
Floridians don't see it as toxic as investors, but we know just from experience, if we put a flood zone home out to our database of buyers, we'll have very limited interest in it. If we put a non-flood zone home, we'll be inundated with interest. So it's just, you got to smell what sells. Flood zone homes are just, they're harder to sell, period.
Yeah. Except you and Brian both live in flood zones. Right?
I actually don't. I live on.
You don't. Okay.
I live on top of a hill.
Okay, but you're awfully close to the ocean.
I'm awfully close to the ocean.
Do they actually have a top of the hills in Florida? Didn't know that.
Yeah, I live at about, I don't know, I think it's about 28, I think it's about 28 feet, which is, hilly
That's a
in
mountain. Yeah.
our
Okay.
neck of the woods.
What are you seeing interest loan rates for 30-year fixed on new construction?
So we interviewed and asked Sean over at Chemical Bank earlier on, and he's got some really, really strong rates ranging from 3.5 to 3.75. Obviously, Highlands Mortgage are very, very competitive in that space as well. So we like to work with Chemical or Highlands. And so we're looking at rates anywhere between 3.5 and 4, depending on your credit, depending on everything else. So that's what we're looking at right now if you're prepared to put about 20 to 25% down on new build.
All right.
Good.
Any assessments or HOA fees?
No, not on 95% of our product. There's one neighborhood that we have inventory in called Deep Creek. It's a deed restricted subdivision, and there is a HOA in there, but I think it's about $240 a year. That's just to keep it alive. But that in return, nobody's going to get to paint their house purple or park an RV or an articulated truck in their yard. So there may be some little value in that 240, but there's no amenities, and there's no political intrigue or palace intrigue with the HOA in an environment like that.
Of all the areas in the Tampa Bay, Florida area, what would you say are the cheapest? Now, obviously, there's going to be really cheap areas that probably you don't want to own real estate in. So I would probably go to what's the most affordable product that you would invest in, or that you might be able to provide, that is also a good rental property.
Yeah, and I'd like to take a stab at that question. I get sent wholesaler inventory every day, and it's fantastically cheap and it's fantastically old, and I eliminate it immediately. So I don't go for I don't know where the cheapest part of the market is. I know I don't go there.
Let's say we don't want to know. Yeah.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know where it's cheapest.
Okay, but for you, for someone who doesn't want to pay that price point, you have some lower price points, right?
Yeah, the existing rehab product tends to run somewhere around $135,000 to around probably about 165,000. And our new build product kind of kicks in at about 175 and runs to 210, and for the larger homes about 230. So just where the existing product, the upper end of the existing product drops off, the lower end of the new build product kicks in. So basically we can do a rehab from 130 to 165 and new build from 175 to 240.
It's a really good question. This got me a few times when I bought new homes. What, with the new construction product you have, what's included? Do you have window coverings, appliances, landscaping, or do people have to pay that on separately?
Okay, landscaping, all of our homes are on well and irrigation and fully sodded. So that's all done. So and that's a really big point. If you want to have a lawn in the state of Florida, it better be on a well, because if the irrigation is on the house water and your tenant has to pay to irrigate the lawn, your lawn will die on the second month after your tenant moves in. So irrigation and well is supplied, our sod is supplied. The window coverings are not, and that's something that I will negotiate. It's a really great question, because it is something that costs about $400, and I will negotiate it into, based on that question. It was an oversight with me. I'll negotiate that into our package. Everything else is supplied.
Appliances are and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that happened to me on a few deals I bought in our early 2000, and I thought I got a great deal. The next thing you know, I got to buy all the appliances and the blinds, and like, it ended up not being a great deal.
Yeah, no, but it's careful to note that we don't supply washers, dryers, or any of that kind of stuff, and I don't suggest that you do. Whatever you supply with the home is what you've got to maintain. So we very much let our tenants bring their own washer and dryer. That's a big maintenance item. And another thing that we do is we take out garbage disposals. It's just some kid is going to throw in a banana skin, and that rough end of a banana skin is going to get stuck, and it's going to cost you $150 for a plumbing call out. So we take that out just because it's the thing to do.
And you don't get more plumbing problems because of it? Seems like
No,
you
we get
would.
less. No.
Wow.
So, how often do you, I don't know, you tend to have a very responsible house, but how often do you put knives and forks and all sorts of crazy down there? And then you've got to get Rich underneath the sink to jimmy it out.
Yeah, but that's just so fun to make them work a little harder.
Yeah, well, tenants don't do that. Tenants pick up the phone and they say, "Hey, I've got a problem." That problem's going to cost the owner $100.
It's true. Okay. Where in Port Charlotte are you building? Can you give an example address or area?
Happy to do so. If you look at the slides earlier on, the addresses were on the slides. I just don't have the addresses in my head. Or if that person would like to reach out to me.
Yeah, you can reach out. I think that's the next slide. David's contact info is there, and you can reach out and get
Yeah. So
details.
I currently have 14 homes that are available to purchase immediately. So anybody who would like to get that inventory, I'm more than happy to share it with kind of a nice glossy brochures that are the hows and whys of all of this. So yeah, just reach out to me
Can you
directly.
go to the next slide so they can see that in case they got to go?
Yes, I can.
There you go. All right. So new homes come with a 10-year warranty, or what is the warranty?
It's 210. It's by law in Florida. You sell a home in Florida, you've got to offer a 210.
Awesome. Okay, let's see. So out of the homes that you have, which is the cheapest model? And I think you showed it at 179.
Yeah,
is that
I think it was 179 entry level price point.
Okay.
And that's obviously fully delivered with the vinyl floors.
And that's the lowest price point.
Yeah, that's the entry level.
Okay. What percentage of rentals to homeowners in each development? So yeah, are these all rental neighborhoods or?
Brilliant question. I'm really happy that question came up because the two home types that we're doing, which is basically subdivision infill and non-subdivision infill, they're all owner occupied. I do not sell in specific build to rent communities. I will not be operating in 100% rental communities. It's not what I do. It's not what I particularly think is the best exit strategy in 15 or 20 years from now, to have a bunch of other rentals around you. So the neighborhoods I work in are residential neighborhoods. The vast majority of your neighbors will be owners. And that's very important to me. It's what I've always done in Port Richey, Newport Richey, and Holidays. These are real world residential neighborhoods. The day that you want to sell your home, you can put in a for sale sign on the MLS, and an owner occupier will most likely be the one that rings you up and asks you to makes you an offer.
Okay. Why are closing costs so much cheaper for new builds? I purchased a home in Holiday from the 70s, and closing costs were close to $8,000.
I'd ask that buyer to reach out to me. And it sounds, obviously you've got your normal closing costs, and then you've got your bank fees, your origination. And I don't know if this person had to pay off points, and I don't know what else in terms of.
There's all kinds of reasons. So yeah, I would say reach out.
I would say reach out to me. That sounds high. It sounds very high, unusually high. So I would ask that person to reach out to me directly, and we'll answer that question.
Yep. Somebody said yes, but if you're 60, they're looking for higher cash flow. So that's a really great point. Is every market has something different for you. Florida is more of a growth market and a little bit less cash flow than if you say went to the Midwest. There are cash flow markets, there are cash flow quasi growth markets, and then there's California, where I'm not sure you're getting either these days. So yeah, if you're in a retirement position, this may or may not be the option for you. If you are looking to buy something that your tenant pays off for you over time, this is it. Although the person who just asked that question, I would really want you to look at, not everybody's got this ability, but if you had about if you were able to buy more homes, multiple homes, you're not going to retire on one home, that is for sure. But if you're able to buy multiple homes and take all the cash flow and pay off one home faster, then you can get there faster. You can take all the cash flow, pay off the first loan, take all the cash flow, pay off the second, and depending on what you buy, you can get there in 12 to 15 years doing it that way. But you have to buy more, you have to buy a portfolio.
Yeah, and I'd like to just take a really quick stab at that one, Kathy, is that, yeah, we're definitely like a new build product here. For a cash on cash basis, I think this is a fine return. You're not going to get it in the stock market. You're not going to get it, but in terms of actual real estate, there's definitely going to be higher cash flow markets, Detroit and Cincinnati and various other places. And I think that's why you have such a wide network, so that you can take care of the cash flow kings, if you will. But I've always said, and I continue to say, that real estate is a long-term proposition. It really makes sense to go deep, go hard when you're young, and stay in it through thick and thin. And 10 or 20 years from now, you'll have a lot of equity. Your tenant will have paid down equity. You'll have had a lot of tax breaks in that time. You'll have had a lot of depreciation in that time. You'll have had a lot of equity from your or a lot of rental payments from your tenants. So for me, real estate is all about long-term investing, and investing today for cash flow is just something it's not something that I personally do. I'll definitely look at I'll definitely look at some higher cash flow deals, and maybe some of them belong in your portfolio. But obviously, higher cash flow always comes with a little bit of a downside. It's an older product, a product in a less appreciating market. So a blended portfolio of new build and high cash flow, maybe that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, and also understand we're probably going to face some kind of inflation. So I've often said to people, hey, if you're even starting at 50 and you go on the 30-year plan, which you can accelerate that, by then you're 80, and you know what? That'd be a pretty darn good time to have a bunch of paid off homes. You know what I mean? So
yeah, we all hope that we get to 80, and to have something substantial to leave your children. But there's nothing in this business, and I've said it and I keep saying it, Kathy. Nothing beats the power of time in the real estate investment business. The earlier you're in, the more years you have to benefit from it. Get your kids into real estate as early as you can, folks, because if they start buying in their mid-20s, they're going to actually have paid off homes in their late 40s.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's the power of time. But what I meant was, if you're 50 today and you buy, you start your portfolio today and it's paid off by the time you're 80, I think 80 is going to be pretty young in 30 years, because of all the the medical breakthroughs that we're going to have. And I just look at my mom, who's 88, and we're trying to tell her, Mom, this is actually the virus that is going to affect you. So you should stay home. And she won't. So, she's just, like, that's not going to get me. And she's running around town playing tennis and stuff.
That's her Irish stubbornness, from what I can gather.
That's where I get it.
Yeah,
all right. Yeah. Does the insurance quoted include hurricane coverage, and does it need to be a named event?
No, all of Florida's insurance policies must provide full hurricane insurance, and that's not including flood. Flood is a water from the ground up. Hurricane, if it rips your roof off and your house gets flooded with rain coming from above, you are fully insured. So I think I've answered that question. All Florida liability insurances and home insurance will provide full coverage for hurricanes. And I think the question, though, is the nuance of the question was, did it need to be a named event? The answer to that, in my knowledge, is no. I'm not an insurance person, but no, it doesn't need to be a named event. It just needs to happen. It doesn't have to
be, but I would definitely talk to your insurance agent about named storms, because these days every storm has a name, and if you don't have named storm insurance, you don't get covered. So just find out what it costs.
I would clarify that, but it's not something that I have heard of, that it needs specifically to have a name. That would be new to me, ironically enough.
Are the new homes presented existing or need to be constructed? So are they already there, or how would it work?
everything that I bring to our database is going to be in permitting with delivery in probably 3 to 4 months. So
Wow. Okay.
basically just the amount of time to do your homework, do your research, do your due diligence, put it under contract, get your financing prepared, and around the time that you're pretty much getting prepared, these homes will be coming closer getting their certificate of occupancy. So everything that we will be bringing you will already have cleared permitting, and we'll be on that runway.
Would you say it'd be too risky to name it as a 1031 exchange product?
If somebody had a specific 1031, just tell us and we will go to the builder and take their further down the line product. So no, I think that we can supply but if something is not permitted yet and it's not under construction, the answer to that question is yes. Don't do a 1030. Yeah. Don't do a 1031 in a greenfield project. But if somebody's got a specific 1031, I think we can accommodate all of that activity.
Okay. And are they? I can't remember what you said. Are they infill or full neighborhoods?
Yeah. Basically, they're in existing subdivisions, and they're in also county built and county cleared infrastructural areas where there's roads, lights, sewers, all that kind of stuff. So yes, everything will be an infill.
Will Sanista, we already did that. Yeah, talk to David about the property management company, because it will not, it's his company. Okay, are these new houses on, we did that? I can say, I can buy max, okay, I'm not sure the question. Please indicate which properties are septic or sewer. I would say just reach out to David and he will send you the list. To be super clear about what it is you want, if you want it on septic or you don't, and if you want it in a certain area, or just, I'm sure you've got a list you can share and go through it. So just reach out, and because I'm sure people got to go. We're at an hour and 15.
And that's it. We outline that. That's just one of the fields on our list. We tell you right up front what it is.
If we're using a conventional mortgage and the appraisal comes in below the selling price, what will you do? Will you match that offer? Or?
Okay, in a very, very unlikely scenario, I think if anything that I can see, I've done my own comps, and I can see that our homes are quite a significant appraisal runway, in my view. So I just don't see that as a legitimate concern. I just don't see it as a legitimate concern. And in the scenario where that happens, obviously at that point in time, we go back to the builder, and we go back to the buyer, and it's also written into the contract that if the property does not appraise, that the buyer has the opportunity to just walk away from it. So there's a whole host of scenarios. Real estate is a very creative business. So we would cross that bridge when we come to it. But at the end of the day, the buyer has the right to walk out if it doesn't appraise.
This is a good question. We're in our early 80s. We started investing in our 30s. Congratulations, man. I would love to interview you on this show.
Yeah.
Hear your story over the last 50, was that 50 years? Oh my gosh, yes, please. We're wondering now what direction to go, sell and reinvest, or leave it all in place. Boy, that's an individual decision. Yeah. I would say if you got an old property that's a pain in the butt, exchange into a new one. That's a lot easier. That would be my suggestion. But what do I know?
Yeah, I think that they've got to both of us. So hopefully we can let them make the wisest decision themselves.
Yeah. After you sell the 14 current homes for sale, will you have more coming for 1031 folks?
Yeah, we have a pool of 50 right now in permanent.
Okay. Do you have mold issues?
Personally, no, but
I'm so glad to know that. I was wondering.
Mold issues, mold issues is something that obviously these are new build homes, and but I work also in a renovated product, and mold issues are something that if there's an active leak in the state of Florida and it's leaking onto drywall, and that active leak is left unattended, that area around the leak will develop mold. There are hundreds of different types of mold. They're not all bad, they're not all black, and most mold that you see is not this toxic black mold that we all hear about. There's only about 3 or 4 species that actually is. So my experience actually with mold is quite simplistic. I tend to any active leak pretty quickly, and outside of that, I haven't had a great deal of encounters with any kind of toxic or abated mold issues that I've ever had to deal with. So no, I don't think it's a huge part of my day.
Okay. Are these homes block or wood frame construction?
They're block. They're concrete.
Okay. All right. How long do you expect it will take to lease?
As I say, our current research and our current due diligence leads us to believe that we can place a tenant and have a tenant in place about a month after you buy it. So 2 to 3 weeks on, a week, maybe 10 days on the marketing side, a week on the clearance due diligence side, and tenant background checks and all that kind of stuff, and then maybe a week or two for the tenant to actually move in. You don't want to place a tenant. If a tenant comes to you and say, "Hey, listen, I need a place to live and I need a place to live tomorrow," usually is a red flag for me.
Are the builders in good financial standing?
From what I can gather, absolutely. Yeah, I haven't. Well, let me be clear. So the purchase process thus far is that you put a $15,000 deposit down. That deposit is kept in escrow, and the balance is obviously paid on closing. So the reality is you're putting a deposit down, you then have an entitlement to that property. And during the time when you're $15,000 down, they are adding hundreds of thousands of dollars value to that lot. So yes, we understand that their financing is in good standing, but I can't, I'm not an auditor. I haven't audited their books.
Is there concern about rising sea levels?
Not in these locations. No, we're in some cases we're 15 miles inland on the I-75 corridor. Not only we're in excellent zones, but rising sea levels is going to affect a lot of coastal areas. When I say coastal, I mean the beach. So it's not something that I live in tremendous fear about. I'm not saying ignore it, but I think if you're buying a next flood zone, and don't forget, most of the flood zone maps were also updated about 3 years ago, to my knowledge. So it's not something I spend my time worrying about. Big macro global warming stuff is important. It's real, but it's not something that I see in front of me right now.
I mean, the reports I've looked at, because I have looked at them,
Sure.
It's even if what's projected happens, then it looks like it wouldn't be for a while. So, but I would be cautious about owning beachfront. If you're not on a hill like you.
As I say, just buy X flood zone, buy inland, buy X flood zone. By and large, you're protecting yourself. So just don't buy on the coast. I think anyone who's going to get hurt by this, I think, is going to be very much coastal.
Yep. Wanting to know specifically if the 4.2s are in sewer or septic, if you know that offhand.
Again, there's a mixture of both. So anybody who wants to reach out and request the actual inventory, I'd be glad to supply it. And the water and septic is right there. As I say, it's about 65-35 on city and sewer, and 35 water and septic.
Someone said the cash flow looks pretty high to me for a new build in a growth market. Agreed, totally. How much of your portfolio projects? Almost all of them. I just sold a California rental, believe it or not, like 2 weeks ago, and we put it on the market, and bam, it was gone at over asking price. So the market is still hot, kind of everywhere, but I only have one rental left in California, and I would like to buy more in Florida, and we've got one with you, David, and it's been awesome. I think it's already gone up, what'd you say, 70 grand or something in the time that I've owned it? Maybe more now.
Yeah, I'd want to go back and look at that number, but yeah, it's appreciated well. Bottom line is, look, the real world, it's very easy to focus in on the big macro details, but actually what I'm seeing on the ground is just so active. It's in terms of the sales and the rentals right now. I don't know what it would take to change that. Obviously, it could be speaking a different narrative this time next year. But for right now, I'm just not seeing any slowdown. If anything, I'm seeing it accelerating.
Okay, I'm going to keep going if you don't mind, because we still have people and they still have questions. I live in California. Can I get an FHA loan to purchase in Tampa? Now, here's how people are doing that. The only way that FHA works is if it's your primary residence. So if you are in a situation where you're working from home, you can prove that you can work from home, you can possibly use an FHA loan, which would be just 3% down to buy this property, to buy any of these properties. But you do need to have the intention of living there, and you do need to live there for a period of time. It's not, there's no black and white about how long you need to live there, but your intention needs to be live there, and you do need to actually live there for a period of time. Now you might really like that option for a little while, but there's nothing that says you can't live in it and then move and then rent it out. So
that's right, and always give full disclosure to your lenders.
Always full disclosure, and and again, your intention is to move there, and you might love it. Okay, can you please share? Let's see. Okay, wait. Nah, went the wrong direction. Are you still doing deals in the other areas?
Yes, absolutely. I put an offer in, was successful on Friday. I put another offer in and was successful today. So I've just bought 2 homes.
It's just been harder though because of the foreclosure. Like you like to buy foreclosures, and that hasn't been happening.
Yeah, I buy foreclosures in the court system, and the court system is closed down, which gives me the time to pivot, quite frankly.
Yeah.
What will happen? And the court system is going to open up in the next couple of weeks. I think it's still going to be a fairly politically toxic thing to do, to actually have people foreclosed on and evicted, because naturally that's what happens after foreclosure. So it's yet to see. I'm not sure what is going to happen to the actual judicial foreclosure markets. Not a huge amount of people right now are selling their homes. So yeah, finding inventory of a quality nature right now is just harder. Just harder, based on the fact that my main supply of foreclosure homes is shut down.
So I had a question about a 1031 exchange. I would definitely talk to your 1031 exchange provider, because it is my understanding, and I don't want to give tax advice, is that it's been extended to July 15th or something to identify. Again, talk to your 1031 person, talk to your CPA, but you have a little bit more time in the 1031 process, is my understanding. So these might work. Someone wanted to know if they thought it would work. So it could. Talk to your...
Yeah, we absolutely have inventory that can meet 1031 purposes for sure.
And we can reserve lots now, someone said?
Yes,
and what's
absolutely
required, how much down and stuff to reserve it?
Basically, it's going to be just fairly blanket. It's going to be $15,000 down, and then the balance on delivery.
Okay.
And that obviously $15,000 is held with a licensed escrow agent.
Okay.
Kathy, you just mentioned something a moment ago, and I'd like to add it in. These homes that we're delivering here, they're not a lot of. There was a gentleman a while back asked about the big high cash flow inventory, and I completely get why, and if you're in the cash flow space. But these homes are homes that you would actually live in yourself, and these are homes that you can retire in. These can be Airbnbs. These homes can be something that I personally would live in, as opposed to, kind of maybe cheaper inventory that has higher cash flow. I'd actually live in these homes. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there, that this is a viable retirement option if anyone is thinking about it in that fashion.
How long do you see low interest rates lasting for? A while.
Yeah, Fed Chief Powell, do you have anything to say on that?
I think we're going to see them go lower. I think we've got a massive, this is me. You can quote me on it. It's fine. I think we're going to see a massive boom because of the massive stimulus and the intention to keep interest rates low. Just my opinion.
I saw the yield on a 10-year note yesterday, and I nearly fell off my seat.
Yeah. So, you've got people looking for yield and they're not getting it. So that's why you can go to people and say, look, I can give you 4 or 5%. You could secure it to this property. I'll pay you every month I don't pay you, you get the house. I mean, it's a great time to look for private money.
Absolutely, and guess what? For a lot of people, speaking just with a friend of mine the other day, and we were talking about private lending, and we were talking about real estate in general, and we were talking about specifically the private lending, and he said, you know what, buddy? He said that sounds very risky. I was like, no, 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 no. The risk is not doing it. Every day this person owns this home and adds value to it, I want my loan to fail. I want him to fail because I want to get that house at a 40% discount.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and I'm being a little bit facetious. I don't want anyone to fail.
But it's true. I mean, if you're putting 20%, 25% down, and then as a lender, you're bringing in the rest, you're pretty secure.
Yeah, particularly if you have a deed in lieu agreement with your mortgagee. So yeah, I've always said that. A lot of people think that real estate is risky. I said the risk is actually not doing it. That's my take on it.
Okay, well, I think we're done. Any more questions, you can direct them to David. Thank you so much, David. Really appreciate you. Thank you all for joining.
It's always an honor. Thank you so much, Kathy.
We'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.